Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's Wednesday Wise webinar. My name is Sydney Konahia, and I'm the Manager of Member Services and Retention with IFA, and we have a great hour lined up for you. Before we get started, I just wanted to touch on a couple things. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to the recording will be included in the follow-up email you'll receive from Zoom tomorrow afternoon. And if you have any questions for the speakers today, please add them to the chat or question box, and I will address them towards the end of the session. Today's topic is how franchisors and franchisees can optimize revenue growth through integrated marketing and operations, and it's brought to us by Location 3. Here to provide today's discussion are Josh Allen, Vice President of Marketing with Location 3, Vera Shafiq, Vice President of Digital Strategy with Location 3, and Jen Chasteen, Chief Marketing Officer of Synergy Home Care. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you again to Location 3 for sponsoring today's Wednesday Wise webinar. And with that, I will go ahead and turn things over to Josh to get us started.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sydney. Thanks again to the IFA for hosting us here today. As Sydney shared, my name is Josh Allen. I'm a certified franchise executive and the Vice President of Marketing at Location 3. On behalf of everyone at Location 3, just wanted to welcome you here today. We're excited to be here and have you all join us. So thanks for taking the time. For those of you who may not be familiar with Location 3, we are the premier partner who drives digital transformation for multi-unit brands and franchise systems. And what does this mean? It means that at Location 3, we are a catalyst for revenue growth, offering strategic consulting and professional services specifically tailored to franchisors like you and the franchise owners in your own communities. Our expertise in data analytics, digital media, performance marketing, and technology infrastructure empowers brands like yours to thrive in the digital landscape. How does digital transformation look in action? Well, we can help you transform your own data, your own tech stack, your marketing strategy, and much more to drive the actual business outcomes that you seek, all while creating balance between brand strategy and national marketing programs with the respective interests of your own franchise owners. It means harnessing data and predictive analytics to effectively reach and engage your own target audiences. It means increasing marketing efficiency through our application of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation technology. And it means developing comprehensive media mix models powered by your data and technology to ultimately drive revenue growth. But what makes us truly unique from really any other supplier in franchising is that we combine this 25 years of multi-unit franchising and digital marketing expertise with LocalAct, the premier local marketing platform for businesses. Simply put, LocalAct empowers your franchisees and business owners with digital technology designed to deliver growth in leads, customers, sales, and revenue. We are proud, dedicated members of the IFA for more than 16 years, and we're proud of our powerful partnerships with many industry leaders in both digital media and ad technology. At the end of the day, our focus is clear: to deliver results for our partners in franchising that drive growth for their businesses. And we've got a proven, successful track record of doing so across virtually every business category in franchising. But enough about us. If you'd like to connect with us in person, you can find myself and many other members of our leadership team on the road this summer. First and foremost, in June in Atlanta, Georgia for the Franchise Customer Experience Conference, as well as in our own backyard of Denver in July at the Franchise Business Network Summit at the beautiful Botanic Gardens. And certainly last but not least, supporting everyone in franchising through the Franchise Action Network and Advocacy Week this September in Washington, D.C. As we shift to the topic for today, we wanted to set the stage for a lively discussion featuring our guest speakers. Some key topics that we hope to cover are focused on the challenges and successes that come with integrating data, marketing, and operations. How do we utilize technology to optimize marketing, operations, and other workflows in our organization? And how do we break down the barriers through practical advice that you'll hear from our guest speakers today to improve coordination, success, and ultimately ROI? Before we do that, we know there are common barriers that many of you on this call likely face, and this image may be representative of one of those when we think about how to implement and execute not only marketing, but operations programs in franchising. Whether there's national or brand strategies from the top down, to the consideration of regional markets or co-ops that are served, to territory compliance and individual challenges on the local franchisee level. The world in which we operate can get fragmented quite quickly. And what this fragmentation can lead to for a variety of reasons is often referred to as the silo effect, where entire departments and teams within your own organizations focus on the functional aspects of their roles and tasks without much regard to the impact they have on other functions within your entire franchise system. They use different tools, different technology systems. They look at different data sets to measure performance. They execute independently when they should be collaborating more often than not. And the cumulative effect of this as it relates to marketing operations is often one of my favorite memes. Marketing, looking at operations, looking at marketing, looking at operations. And we could probably throw other departments like sales or others in here as well. And so to overcome some of these challenges, I'd like to take a few moments to introduce our guest speakers today. Please allow me to welcome two of my favorite people in franchising, Location 3's Vice President of Digital Strategy and my colleague, Vera Shafiq, and Synergy Home Care's Chief Marketing Officer, Jennifer Chasteen. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining us today. Allow me to stop sharing my screen. Looking forward to a fantastic discussion.
Same. Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, so before we get started, just wanted to kind of do a quick intro of ourselves. I'm, as Josh mentioned, VP of Digital Strategy at Location 3. I've been at Location 3 for about 3 years. I have a pretty long background in digital marketing, and I've been on the brand side as well as the agency side. So really excited to speak to Jen today. Jen, if you want to give a brief intro about your backstory and your background.
Oh, you bet. So currently head of marketing for Synergy Home Care. We are the fastest growing provider of non-medical in-home care for folks that are seniors or perhaps recovering from illness or injury or other. We care for people of all ages and ability in the comfort of their own homes. But before that, I have a pretty storied history in multi-unit franchise marketing on the quick serve restaurant side with roles at Domino's Pizza, Honey Baked Ham, and Church's Chicken. So very, very familiar with all of what Josh just touched on, and definitely look forward to chatting with you about that today.
Awesome. Yep. And I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. And hopefully this will be a fun and hopefully also an actionable discussion. So before we get into the discussion, I just wanted to reiterate a little bit about what Josh talked about. So what do we mean about when we say integrated marketing and operations? As Josh mentioned, it's really about breaking down those silos, sharing knowledge across the corporate marketing and operations teams, but also sharing that information from corporate office down to the franchisees in both directions, right? Bidirectional sharing of information, using operational data to inform the marketing programs for things like targeting, messaging, availability of products and services, and really providing franchise owners the tools and resources that they need to streamline the ability to execute local marketing and then delight the customers that come through the door as a result, right? So it's all about those happy customers at the end of the day, and how do we streamline our operations and marketing? So lots to unpack. Really excited again to have Jen as a speaker today. She has a lot of deep knowledge to share on this topic. And so let's get to it. So Jen, from your diverse background and experience in franchising, as you just mentioned, as well as your current role at Synergy Home Care, what would you say are the most common barriers to integrating marketing strategies across the different operational levels?
So this is one that I will just say that no great marketing strategy can be well executed without communication, okay? And that's communication in capital letters, you know, and it's on a couple of fronts, right? First, you want to make sure that your stakeholders across the function of your organization, that they that they understand the business case and that they're on the same page. Why are we doing this? That's super important. And that's obviously a great place to start, but it does not end there. Importantly, our franchise partners have to clearly understand the what. What's in it for me? I am known to say marketing should be something that we do with our franchisees, not to them. And I know for many years, especially with my QSR background, how important this is, especially when you're launching a new product or even a service, because a lot of great marketing ideas, they can kind of die out there in the field without this ground being laid in advance. And so that alignment, that frequency, probably more repetition than you would even imagine, is needed to really successfully activate those marketing strategies across the network. And I've seen it really just time and again in all types of different brands and all types of different stages of their, growth and maturity.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a really great point. Communication, I think, and we'll talk a little bit more about communication in some of these other questions that I'll ask you a little later. I wanted to hone in a little bit more onto the national, regional, and local kind of levels of operation that we see and which kind of proliferate across franchise systems. When we think about national campaigns, they're typically funded by corporate, often by the brand fund. And then we think of things like brand refreshes, TV commercials, the big marketing campaigns, brand messaging, national buzz. And then as we go down the layers, right, regional marketing, we think of targeted campaigns maybe at the regional level for things like radio or local TV. Again, maybe funded by corporate, but maybe also funded by franchise owners in the form of a co-op fund. And this type of marketing really needs to be executed in orchestration with the national, right? So that we're not cannibalizing or, duplicating efforts. So it's really a fine balance. And then finally, that local activation level. And that, when we think about local activation, it's more local franchisees doing maybe digital campaigns that drive leads and sales, or even doing some grassroots marketing in their local community. So things like that. So I know, Jen, for you, and especially at Synergy, you successfully implemented national and local campaigns that work in tandem to drive growth for your system. Can you talk a little bit about the approach that you've taken there?
For sure. And you raise an interesting point, Vera, because I will tell you, I've led the marketing effort at Synergy for going on 3 years. And at the beginning of my journey, local lead generation efforts were really the primary just execution of the marketing plan. And so what I have really strived to do is to bring, an integrated full funnel approach into the mix for us, with top down and bottom up. I like to call it my sandwich because of course I love food and quick service restaurants, but really a very layered and integrated approach. And so one of the things that I'm most proud of that we're able to successfully do is our signature local digital marketing program that we execute through Local Act. Essentially, one of the ways we're able to be somewhat creative, I think, is that we can return a portion of our national marketing fund to support each location's local digital marketing efforts. So that's sort of the push up. And again, that's something that is sort of legacy to the brand, in addition to the enterprise efforts that I've introduced over the last several years. But the idea is that we're allocating dedicated funds while our offices are building to revenue. And so that is coming, from the fund. And then our mature offices, we're able to co-fund them as they grow, they qualify for more funds. So it scales up along with their business. So the program really, kind of grows from, through the life cycle of the franchisees. And that has been a particularly successful approach for us.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see some brands focus very much on that lower funnel, that local digital marketing presence, and often don't put a lot of emphasis on the national efforts. But I think it's great to see, especially in your case, how injecting that national level of funding in there has really created kind of an engine and a well-oiled machine that's really created efficiencies lower down in the funnel for your system.
Yeah, indeed it has. Couldn't be happier with bringing those things together.
Excellent. Awesome. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about implementation. So in terms of franchisors being able to better support franchisees in adopting and implementing the marketing strategies at the local level, how have you succeeded in creating that adoption?
So, that adoption is, again, a real communication element, of course. This really does go back to the WIFM, what's in it for me, and that frequency of message. And so in our case, we have made a really stated effort around honing our sort of communication channels, how do we communicate, how often do we communicate, the what, the when, and all of that. And so that's been a huge part of it. My current organization does not have a field marketing model. I've come from some organizations that certainly have marketers out in the field, and that is certainly depending on what type of brand you're working with. That's a great approach. We have an operations component, our frontline franchise performance coaches. And so it's really important that we, have that upfront communication and alignment and make sure that everybody is in the fold, because my team's role is really a support role to make that team and our franchisees as successful as they can be. So that linkage and that collaboration is just super, super important.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, getting franchisees on board with a local program doesn't just happen by itself. It really does need kind of like it takes a village, right? It takes a village to get them to understand. I think understanding, and of course, some franchisees are very proficient with marketing concepts and can understand, but to get the entire system bought into, okay, local marketing is super important, especially when it comes to digital, and the investment is just something that, is a strategic imperative. Having the teams in place, having the education in place, and the technology in place.
That's right. That raises an excellent point, because the database business case is kind of what makes the world go round, right? We can be the most influential people in the world, but we have to have the fact-based, rationale as to why are we doing this? What's in it for me? And so technology and data visualization and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that, but those are some of the things that become really important in that education process when you're getting teams ready to engage in an initiative out in the marketplace.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great segue onto the next topic, which was the technology piece, right? In terms of an example, can you provide an example for us of a technology solution that's really worked well for you to align your marketing and operational strategies?
For sure. So, as I mentioned, I think it plays multiple roles, right? It supports the business case, can assist with the communication pieces, right, that I love. And ultimately, what we all want to do as marketers is be able to document the outcomes, right? And so my teams are really reliant and embrace data visualization and dashboarding, right? Those are two kind of things that have been introduced to our business, and in recent years, we haven't always had all those tools at the ready. But we're particularly excited about one of our newest technology solutions that we're working on with Location 3's attribution engine. This is a tool that allows us to ingest and really assess our full marketing funnels data, and then ultimately pull it into our back office. And so again, as a marketer and frankly, as operators, we're getting the closest we've been to really inform, where should we be placing those dollars? So there's sort of that media mix modeling component of it. But also, what I want to be able to hang my hat on is this return on ad spend, this, this elusive, what are you getting for what you're paying? And,
Right.
our organization is getting very close, and that's just really, really exciting to be in this space of I guess we're not running yet, but we've moved from walk, and we're crawling really, really well. So
Right. Yeah.
we're really excited to get a little smarter every day, and to have that continue to inform
Yeah. Yeah.
success.
I think that's great. And yes, it is. We are getting closer. Technology is getting us to a point where now we're not working in silos again. So in the past, it would be where we have our local data sitting in one platform, right? This is only our local campaigns. And then anything that we're running at the national level might be sitting in another platform, or, obviously we've got CRM data sitting somewhere else, revenue data sitting somewhere else. And now being able to ingest all of that into one marketing platform and be able to see how everything's working together to drive that engine, especially when it comes to attribution, and things like, view through conversions. If someone sees a CTV ad or a display ad, how do we know that money was well spent, right? So to your point, yes, we're really excited as well as an agency to be able to offer this solution to our clients now. And I think technology like this is going to kind of proliferate across, all aspects of marketing, not just franchising, and start to give us a better picture. And, it's the holy grail of marketing, as they say. So yes, that's
And I'll tell you too, again, having led brands of various sizes and in various, life cycles of the brand, having this be approachable for a brand of my size is really exciting, and times have changed and technology is ever evolving, but at the same time, I would put us, we're certainly not an emerging brand. I would say we're a growth brand at this point. More than 500 territories in 41 states, fastest growing the past 3-4 years now. But at the same time, I don't have $100 million ad fund either.
Right.
So, it's really neat to be able to approach these tools at various stages of the journey where that just wouldn't have been possible before. In past lives, I've done, old-fashioned media mix models that were, very costly and frankly didn't pay out, in my opinion. And it's neat to be able to approach it in a much more nimble way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, media mix modeling has historically been, that elusive, only the big, huge brands can afford it. And then now that we have the technology, we have AI, and obviously AI has just accelerated the ability to do these things even at the smaller scale. I think it's really neat to have that mix between doing, multi-touch attribution and media mix modeling, like a combination of the two in a platform for, that makes it accessible to brands like yours, which are, growing and need the data. So I think that's a great segue onto the next topic, which is leveraging data to better drive decisions across marketing and operations. Any other ways that you can kind of talk about that have helped you even now or in the past to use data to kind of create that integration between the levels?
Yeah, I mean, at its most basic level, even having just the visualization tools to develop scorecards or dashboarding for teams, right? Just in terms of, what are the key performance metrics that we want to look at? And, again, with what we're doing with the work with attribution engine and then the connectivity to our back office is, we utilize Domo for visualization. And so we have all types of data cards that are available, but we're not just looking at one function's data. It's all being, pulled into a centralized place where you can look at, a more complete sort of complexion of business performance, right? And so, it's work in progress for sure. But something that I'm really excited about, in addition to, for our own internal teams, is we're getting ready to roll out franchise facing views later this year. So in addition to, stuff we might use in a quarterly business review with franchise partners, they would have the opportunity to, monitor and view their own, visualizations. And, there's just sort of that accountability piece that comes along with it, in addition to the, coaching and support that they're receiving from the franchise support center.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love it. Love the use of data. It's like we're always clamoring for more data. And then it's like, what do we do with all of this data? But yes, I think the technology and the data kind of go hand in hand there. Let's move on to communications. We touched on this a little bit earlier, right? In terms of, communicating across the operations and marketing levels. What ways have you seen effective communication improve your integration of marketing and operations?
So I'll tell you, I harken back to my food experience for some really, good examples of that. At Church's Chicken, I established a cross-functional concept to launch team, as well as a go-to-market team. And the straight up purpose of that was to ensure alignment and preparedness across our network as we were getting ready to roll out national promotions and product launches. Because in particular, it's a whole different world when you are dealing with inventory and you're dealing with different operations functions within a restaurant environment. Like those things, the ability for something to go sideways if you're not really moving in lockstep is certainly something that can happen. And again, just the idea of preparing for success versus hoping for it, right? So your marketing, your communications, your training, your operations, your supply team, blah blah blah,
Yes.
all of it. And then I would say a more recent example is something that we've done at Synergy, and it sounds kind of basic, but it's been a bit of a game changer. And that is, we have a marketing request system for our franchisees. And so it's a technology, it's a help desk, for marketers.
Right.
And the idea is I've got a small but mighty team, and I want to connect the requests to the subject matter experts. And at the same time, I want to keep my frontline teams informed of, what conversations are occurring. And, this was something that didn't exist maybe 18 months ago. And I want to say in the last year, my team serviced like 1,500 requests,
Wow.
so,
Yeah.
and those would have been, phone calls or, dial around the room, so to speak, in terms of let me
Right.
find somebody who can help me.
Yeah.
So it's really, a technological solve for a small team to make us more efficient and real time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That sounds like a real game changer. So yeah, I think things like that can make a big difference. And it's just a simple, streamlining of communication. I know some franchise brands use Slack channels that allow, their franchisees to kind of get involved, or, you mentioned the marketing help desk, and then newsletters going out just to kind of
We also
share.
have a private Facebook page, which is something that our franchisees love to use to share best practices or to ask each other questions. And we ride along on that page. We kind of curate it a little bit, and it helps us to be able to address topics that come up that we may not have known about. And it also is an opportunity, if somebody's doing something great, for us to say, hey, that looks like something that could be impactful to others, we should onboard that and think about how we can, integrate that into what we already do.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. And then, kind of like a segue from that question, and kind of half answered the question already, but what steps do you take to ensure that the all stakeholders, from franchisees to regional managers, are all on board with the new marketing strategies that you're introducing?
So I think, again, it depends on, what you're doing. If I think back to, sort of a concept to launch type of proposition, moving a new product or service to market, you would typically start with a franchise advisory board, make sure that you are, aligned at that level once you know that you're ready to go. But other tools that I might use are, town hall meetings, webinars, training cascades, quarterly business meetings, in a co-op type of environment. That's a great joint marketing and operations opportunity to get in front of what the expectation of the program is, the business case, how it's going to be executed, what the training considerations are, et cetera, et cetera. And then even, down to the nitty gritty around, the promotion alerts and the, sales sheets and the, various activation tools, all of the grassroots type of tools that, you might package up to support a top line or a national or regional program.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's also another very kind of complex piece of the puzzle, but getting that buy-in and using, all of the tools at your disposal to get the message out. And as you mentioned earlier, repeating that message over and over, so it really kind of sinks in and people understand what's in it for them, right? Awesome. Let's move on to talking a little bit about creative, because we have these categories of discussion that we had kind of laid out for today. And one of them was the creative aspect. Can you think of a challenge that you faced while trying to maintain a consistent brand message across multiple franchise locations? I know this is often a challenge.
No, right? It's never happened, Vera. Never once. In 20 years has that happened. No, I'm teasing. Gosh, where do I start? No, the beauty of a franchise brand, right, is that, it is a brand. However, at its heart are a bunch of entrepreneurs that have bought into your brand. And so certainly, establishing that consistency is super important, because at their heart, they are entrepreneurs. And, that's why they got into this business. I can think of a great example recently or semi-recently, in that when I joined Synergy, we were in the midst of rolling out a brand new brand identity. And this included, logos, colors, fonts, the whole kit and caboodle. And, kind of clearing out the old and bringing in the new is a bit of a process. And, you can find, lingering examples of, oh my gosh, look at that, old, visual representation of the brand, but, so certainly, there was a lot of communication and, hand-holding, I would say, about, making sure that adoption occurred, as well as the education piece. Why are we doing this? But we had a very high volume of custom requests as a result of that, right? Because you're basically, you got to redo everything. And at the end of the day, there may be gaps in what you have. And then somebody says, oh, I have this old thing, but I need it to look like the new brand or whatever. And so we just saw this, crazy amount of custom requests. And the solution, it was a MarTech type of solution, in that we built a marketing hub. And essentially this is the Synergy Home Care Amazon store, where you can click, shop, and ship. And it's all the tools and resources in one centralized space, and they can print it on demand and send it to their office. They can download it, they can print it locally, they can use it digitally. It's all on brand and it's all on demand. And the intention there is to, keep people on the page.
Right.
You want that consistent approach.
Yeah.
And so, part of that involved taking a really deep dive into the inventory of assets. We're a very collateral heavy business, and making sure that we had the right tools that address the right needs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so all of that, and then bringing it into a digital space where the control and flexibility is at the hands of the franchise partner has
Yeah.
been a real linchpin, I would say, to that adoption, because it's just so easy to use and everything, looks great. And,
Mhm.
we have new operators that are starting up, every month of the year. And I tell them, on day one, you're going to be surrounded with, the assets of the brand, and you're going to look like $1 million
Right.
because we've built, a really nice library of materials and activation resources for them to.
Yeah, that's great. Was that a custom build that you did, or did you use an existing software to kind of
It was a custom third-party solution.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Because I was going to ask about, digital asset management or DAM systems. And, it sounds like you have something in place. I think, one of the powerful pieces of that is, as you mentioned, a franchisee can go in, get anything that's brand compliant, but then customize it to contain local elements, maybe put their city name in there.
Yeah,
Or
they can put their phone number on it. That's
their phone
the
number.
single biggest
Yeah.
get for us.
Yeah.
But they can choose the images, they can, all of that in most
Right.
cases. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of flexibility to it.
Yeah, that's great. And that also ties in with technology. So another kind of way to integrate everything using technology and kind of getting that creative aspect in balance. All right. I guess my final question on that was really, how important is it? And then we kind of answered the question, but I'll ask the question anyway. How important is it for the central franchisor to tailor marketing creative to meet local market needs? And then can you give an example when this was particularly?
Well, yeah. So my answer to that, as you might guess, is it depends.
Yes.
My objective is to market at scale. Right. I want to be able to, solve the hairy problems of, 500 different territories in a very streamlined way, if I'm able.
Yes.
And now I'm not always able. And so we have to be flexible. We have to provide the support that makes sense, because sometimes there is a unique need that requires custom design work. I have a designer on staff, and I also have agency resources that can help address these needs. And, going back again to sort of restaurant life, like you might have a regional menu offering.
Right.
I may have these days service offerings that are, more unique to a given location. And, those types of, I guess at the end of the day, those are real business development, revenue generating type of opportunities. They're not shiny objects.
Right.
They really are things that can drive a franchise partner's business forward. And so you want to be able to support those, but it should be the exception, not the rule, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. And I think with QSR restaurant, there's also the nuance of, needing to put promotional offers in that may be regional or even local. There may be a local sports team that you're sponsoring, and you want to put that on the creative to say, we're the local restaurant of the whatever team, right? Whether that be a small local team or maybe a national team. So in that aspect, I know a lot of requests come in for custom needs. And so,
well, and the pricing, let's not start on that, but yes. I want to sell it for $9.99. No, I want to sell it for $10.99.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, the final piece of this is really kind of culminating in the future, right? How do we look to the future? And see in terms of what emerging trends we believe will most significantly impact how franchisees or franchises integrate marketing and operations, right? We're already in this world where AI has taken over. So I think AI is going to be the big buzzword here. But I was watching Google Marketing Live yesterday, and they were teasing this this ability to do personalization of ads through AI, right? Google's now going to be, rolling this out across Performance Max, where AI will take the ad and put the local flair to it. So what do we think about that? Do we think we're going to be able to leverage customer data and AI to personalize our messaging in the future?
Oh, this is a big, hairy topic, Vera.
It is.
I think that goes back to, it depends, right?
Right.
I think that as this emerges around our ears, right, we do have certain legal considerations and
Yes.
other things that are not fun, but that we have to think about in terms
Yes.
of what ends up touching the consumer.
Right.
And so I personally have a little nervousness about that, but on the other hand, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this is really, pretty cool.
Yeah.
If I pull out just a little bit, AI is gonna be in everything that we do, right?
Sure.
That there's no doubt to that. But I go back to thinking about, even the blocking and tackling and just the marketing automation,
Yeah.
and the technology pieces that enable us to do that, whether it's AI powered or not. To me, that's been the biggest shift, in the sort of digital transformation piece over the many years of my career is, easier and more optimized ways to do things,
Yeah.
that help you get to market better, faster, more efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
however.
Yeah.
And so again, in my current role, that's super important to me because it's a small but mighty nimble organization, and we're using that data to again get a little smarter every day, and we're always optimizing and looking for ways to um, be better in real time. And so like those MarTech tools, like that's a big piece of the vision cast for me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. And I think, using AI or technology to to work smarter and not harder is fine. But I do think, and I do share your concerns, is that I think that human element needs to be in place. And, just letting AI run wild with our ad creative is not a good idea, especially with a healthcare brand like yours or, any.
Well, that's
Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, there's
yeah,
just there's so many considerations
yeah.
in that space. And but like I don't want to take the ride in the driverless car though, so this is just me.
Yeah, I'm a little
I'm not getting in the Waymo, sorry.
Yeah, I know. I don't think I would be doing that either. I have a Tesla and I still don't let it drive by itself. So I still have to have my hands on the wheel and have to be in full control. So, I think everything with caution and moderation. But yes, I think as we look into the future, there's a lot of things in the marketing landscape in terms of privacy that we haven't even touched on, third-party cookie deprecation and all of that. And I think in general, my thoughts on this would be, in order to integrate marketing and operations, we're going to have to just get a little bit more back to the human touch again, talking to our customers the way they want to be talked to, right? And whether technology helps us to do that or whether we have to do that
Well,
ourselves.
I mean, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If we keep the consumer in the center of the equation,
Right.
regardless of how we get there,
Right.
good things happen.
Yes. 100%.
And that customer can be your own internal customer or, the consumer that you're, certainly trying to
Yeah.
sell something to.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, we are at the time where I think we can start to look at some questions. I've seen a lot of activity going on in the chat. I'm not sure if it's all questions, but Sydney, do you or
Yeah, I was
Josh,
going to say,
any
Vera, I'm
questions?
happy to jump in.
That
There's
would
some
be
good
great.
questions.
Yeah.
Pulled them out of the chat. First and foremost, fantastic discussion. Thank you both. Lots to learn. We could probably keep going for several hours.
Oh, come on,
but
let's do it.
let's do it. Couple of quick questions. I think first, kind of a combo between two. Jen, you mentioned kind of the keys of communication channels established with franchisees that are effective. And a related question, as part of your comment using Facebook, is there a particular position within the organization that curates and monitors the private Facebook group with franchise owners?
Yes, we have a digital marketing specialist who curates part of that discussion, and certainly, we have legal purview as well, just for obvious reasons.
Excellent. Question for both of you. For upper funnel tactics, with a specific call out to traditional mediums like radio, television, how do you apply attribution, both from a setup, but more kind of across the full funnel analysis, if you will?
Yeah, I can take part of that. So with the attribution engine that we use, we're able to ingest the offline data through a flat file ingestion. So we don't have an API integration, obviously, to the traditional TV or radio buys. But if we have a file that contains our spend data, our conversion data, what days we drove the conversions on, etc. Or if obviously it's not conversions, it's going to be impressions, right? So for linear TV and for radio, it's going to be impressions that were generated. We can ingest that data into the system and then let the AI do its magic to figure out what halo effect that had on the rest of the program. So for example, if we ran a bunch of TV during a certain period of time, and the system picked up that paid search demand grew over that period, and we had more efficient conversions in those channels, we can then start to correlate and connect the dots. So that's my kind of simplified answer to that.
Fantastic. Jen, one question that came through is, you mentioned your marketing hub, I think around creative asset management, if I'm not mistaken. Do you mind sharing the details on the marketing hub and who that might be?
Oh, who my fantastic partner is? Is that really what you want me to share here?
I said marketing hub specifically, so not to be
Yeah.
self-promotional by any means.
So I use an outside logistics and printing vendor named Prisma, Prisma, and they're wonderful.
Excellent. And then the same question, similar to, I think there's a question around the attribution engine, I think is what it was getting at, but tools mentioned around visualizing data, return on ad spend, and kind of pulling in that attribution as well.
Yeah, so the tool that we use leverages Power BI reporting and visualization. So all of the data that we ingest then gets thrown into dashboards, which allow us to visualize the impact of marketing across the full funnel and the pipeline. And we can start to look at impressions, clicks, conversions, and even revenue, and see how that's actually driving business outcomes for the franchise.
Yeah, and that's the piece that we're excited about all the pieces, but the piece for us is connecting our back office. So, that's where the revenue piece, can connect with, what's happening, in the funnel. And then we can really start to see, what happened to these conversions, because, in our business, we're measuring calls and form fills. But it'll be really great to be able to see what happened to said calls and form fills, and what happened to those customers over time, and the revenue associated with them.
Excellent. Another one specifically on the national level and the changing landscape, and with advances in technology, any feedback on what seems to be working well from a national perspective and a brand awareness perspective when it comes to marketing and media?
As far as channels, is that the question, kind of?
I think so. That's the way I'm reading it.
I'm a big fan of YouTube. I'm a big fan of YouTube, and the other product that I think it gives you a lot of bang for your buck is Performance Max. The Google Performance Max campaigns. Both of those are part of my mix, amongst many others, but those are two standouts for me.
Yeah, I agree. YouTube is huge. I think for the majority of our clients, YouTube plays a really big part in that. Performance Max is playing a much bigger part in a lot of our clients' media mixes, because it gives us that full funnel exposure, right? And then I think, CTV is another big one, connected TV
Yes.
and OTT. Yeah, and I know, Jen, you're running quite a bit of that as well.
Yeah, and so I guess going back to the awareness piece, part of the challenge in a business like mine is my industry is fairly new. We're about 25 years old, but so is the industry. And that said, a lot of people don't understand what non-medical home care even is. And so there is sort of that education and awareness piece, and getting at the same time getting the brand name out there, right? And so CTV is a very efficient way to do that.
Excellent. I think that is most of the specific questions. I think maybe a good wrap to today's conversation. I'm curious from each of your perspectives. A lot to digest. I think there are a lot of places to start, whether we're talking at the brand level or even at the franchisee level. What are your particular recommendations on where to start when it comes to breaking down some of these barriers that exist across the national, regional, local landscape, and with respect to departments like marketing operations? Do you have any particular quick advice that whether you're an emerging brand, a legacy brand that is struggling with this and watching, where do we start?
You want to start with that, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, no matter where you are in your brand's journey, you want to ultimately be able to market at scale, right? And so, going back to the idea of crawl, walk, run, it's like, what are the, organized things that you can do at each level of that? So if you're an emerging organization, you're probably doing a lot of grassroots. So what can you do to, organize that into making this up shelf programs that can be, adopted by your franchise partners? If you're in that sort of mid space, are you looking more towards co-op and regional type of propositions? And again, there's sort of that organization piece around that. And then, so on and so forth. And what I've seen in more mature brands or more, national brands with broader footprint, that the efficiency of a national spend in complement to a local spend and grassroots efforts is ultimately the plan that I in my experience has delivered the most success. So it's a build.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Vera, what are
Yeah,
your thoughts? Bring us home.
100% agree with what Jen said. I think, it's definitely want to tackle it with a strategic approach, right? Don't just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Don't just like, oh, let's run national, regional, local, and just see what works, right? I think just crafting the strategy, making sure that you're not cannibalizing yourself across those levels. But also, to Jen's point, leveraging the efficiencies that can be gained at the national and regional levels. And then using local really strategically to kind of bring home the leads and the sales, right? Warm audiences up in those national and regional levels, and then get the final sales down there at the in the local level, so that our franchisees, the franchise system will get the best bang for their buck, and you'll continue to drive that kind of brand awareness across the engine.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again so much. And thanks to everybody on behalf of Location 3 for joining us today. Thank you to the IFA, Jen, Vera. I appreciate you both immensely. And thanks to Sydney for hosting as well.